I'm not gonna be here Friday or Monday, but, I'm pretty sure Keontae will. I said, "Hey, oh, that's fine.
Emily, can you send it through the chat?
Send it where now? I'm sorry.
Through the chat.
Yeah.
I don't know where it's at.
Emily, can you hear us?
I can. Am I coming in okay?
Yes.
Awesome. All right, let me load up my stuff. Sorry, my whole computer shut down.
Oh, no, no problem. I didn't even get the chance to introduce you. So while you're doing that, I'm gonna go ahead and introduce you right quick. This
Okay,
is
great.
Emily Summers from Microsoft. Now, how many of you knew, because I didn't know this, thank you, Nico. How many of you knew that Microsoft created LinkedIn? I didn't know that.
No, that at all.
Okay, see, I don't feel bad. I didn't feel bad. So she is an expert on LinkedIn. And one of the things that Emily does is she volunteers her time and she speaks to groups like ours about how to improve the resources that we have. Now, I want you all, whatever questions that you have about LinkedIn today, please, 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 please get that question asked. So if while Emily is presenting, you have a question, jot it down so you don't forget it. And then, ask it at the appropriate time. But I'm gonna stop talking now. Emily, we're getting your presentation. We're getting that copied and then we'll bring it in, but you can go ahead and get started. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, I'm trying to find the right copy. I'm so sorry. Let's see if this is it for me. Oh, come on, this is the wrong version. Shoot.
Can you go to the email that you sent me?
Yeah, I mean, I can use that. It's just a PDF version and I had a deck with some notes, but if, we'll work with it. Let me see here. Let me try one more time. It looks like it didn't download to my OneDrive, so it's pulling another copy. Darn. All right, we'll just do it this way. Get out of my email. Pull this over here. All right, well, I had a presentation, but then it crashed when my power went out. So I'm gonna share my screen and walk through essentially the handout that you'll get from Miss Kimberly there. Let me. All right, as she mentioned, my name is Emily Summers. I'm a recruiter here at Microsoft. I've been with the company for 4 years. And I've been recruiting in what we call our go-to-market space. So think anything that touches our customers and how we sell our products. So I recruit for all of those corporate roles on a global scale. I'm really excited to be here today to talk to you about LinkedIn. It is the way that we find the talent of now and the future. And so I'm open, I want to make this a interactive discussion. If you all have any questions, to help get your LinkedIn up and running or to get it crisp and to get it ready for your next employer, feel free to let me know. I'm happy to answer any questions that you have. Also, towards the end, we'll do a live demo on how to job search. On a raise of hand, who is close to getting graduating and going into the professional world? Just to give me a sense on where you're at. Okay, cool. So hopefully this information is valuable for you. And again, I'm happy to answer any questions that you have. So yes, LinkedIn is owned by Microsoft. It was an acquisition that took place a few years back. LinkedIn does have a large reach on a global scale, and it is the #1 way that employers find the employees that they're hiring for. So it is going to be an addition to, I'm sure, all of the social media that you already have on your phone, but think of this as more of a professional slant and ensure that you have it as a way to get out there both passively and actively so that your next employer can find you. Through this conversation, we'll go through how to build your LinkedIn profile. We'll also talk about how you can build up your LinkedIn profile when it comes to posting and activity. And then we'll again go through how to find, maybe find your next role or internship opportunity. All right, so this is a snapshot of my LinkedIn profile. So if you were to look me up, that's what you would see, minus the edit pencils on each field. But I wanted to highlight that some of you may have heard of LinkedIn Premium. That is something that's not needed. LinkedIn is free. It's a free platform for anybody, but LinkedIn Premium does add a couple extra bells and whistles, something that you could probably look into later on in your journey. So I'm not going to touch on that too much today, but if you do sign up for LinkedIn, if you haven't done so already, they may prompt you to do LinkedIn Premium, and don't feel that you need to. It is an additional cost, but it's something that you certainly don't have to do. So as with any social media, headshot is really important. Don't feel that you have to go get a professional headshot, although that's always an option. Our phones do a great job as is. So, but make sure that you do have a headshot. If there's anything that you do in the short term when it comes to building your LinkedIn, a headshot is number one. There's two reasons for that. One, we want to get familiar. Your future employer wants to get familiar with, who you are, right? The second thing is that it does also flag to employers that you're not a scam. So if you don't have a headshot, it's a big question mark. If you don't have content, then you can be filtered out as a potential scammer. Just to make sure from a security standpoint that you're a real person, it's really highly encouraged to have a full, robust profile, headshot being one of them. We have added new features to LinkedIn where you can use our filtering and our crop feature. So again, you can use your phone and just upload it straight from the application or from the web. We have LinkedIn available both in app form on your mobile as well as on a computer. And you can use your phone to upload a photo and use our filtering functions built into LinkedIn to get your profile up there. Also, as you can see here, can you all see my cursor? Yeah, okay, cool. This is a background photo similar to a banner on some of the other social media platforms, but fill that in as well, because it does set you apart from potential scams versus a real certified person. And it could be a background of the ocean. It could be, I have my employer, Microsoft. You can use any background, just make sure that it's something that either you have created or you have permission to post. So just to not infringe on any copywriting. Okay. Now, when you build your profile after you sign up, you put your basic information in to just get you live onto the site. And then you can start making it your own and adding more content. But one of the newer features to LinkedIn is you can customize your URL. So when you're on your page and you're on your profile, you can edit your LinkedIn URL to whatever you want it to be, as long as it's not taken already. So for me, I just kept it my name, Emily-Summers, but you can get creative. Ensure it's appropriate, something that your employer wouldn't be turned off on, but you can edit that. It also helps if you give your URL to someone else, like an employer at a job fair or something like that. If it is the default, which is typically a series of numbers and letters, it's oftentimes, people don't jot it down correctly. So it's helpful for people to find you if you customize it. That's a newer feature for LinkedIn that I highly encourage everyone to take advantage of. Any questions so far?
I have a question. How many of you have the customized URL? You will have that already? Okay, so if you don't have it, go ahead, because this is a working session. For those of you who have your computers, or if you can use your phone, go ahead and put those things in right now, because we are going to have a presentation deck for you to take home, but I don't know if you're like me, you got to do it while it's fresh in your mind. All right.
Yeah. I was just on a LinkedIn presentation by our military employee resource group. And so the presenter, he changed his to, I think it was like linkedin.com/military Mike or something like that. So you can, like I said, you can be creative, but just make sure that you try to tailor it and it not be so generic with all the numbers and letters at the end. Any other questions? Or as you're doing it, does anybody need any help? Are you finding the edit feature? All right. Well, since I did see some of you pull your phones out, we also added another feature where you can record your name. It's been very helpful. LinkedIn is has a global remit, and we expand in all countries. And so with pronunciation of names, it's gotten really important that we added this feature from an inclusivity standpoint. It is only available to add the pronunciation of your name through the mobile app. So be aware of that. But it's really great because as you know, recruiters or hiring managers are looking at your profiles, we can click the pronunciation of your name and not, you know, butcher it in conversation. I have not exercised the feature yet. Sorry, real quick, my son just walked in from school, so I just need to make sure he's good before I continue. Okay, cool. The beauties of working remotely. But my name is pronounced Emily. Most people don't get it right. So I need to do this shortly after this call on on pronunciation for my name. But it is a newer feature that we added, only available to upload it through your mobile app of LinkedIn.
Where's that located?
So if you are on the mobile app, when you do the edit feature to your profile, there should be towards the bottom, like a hold and record. I'm pulling it up now.
What can I find this at again?
I'm pulling it up on my phone here. Oh goodness, it wants me to verify my account first. As I mentioned, I've not done the pronunciation myself. Because I honestly just learned about this feature last week when I was on another LinkedIn presentation.
So when I go to the on the mobile app, if you hit the pencil on the right side, it is edit info, and then
Oh, there you go. Yep. Thank you. Thank you.
Where?
So if you can, oh shoot, I have the blur. Let's see. If you can see my phone here, this pencil here. And then in the basic info section, oops, excuse me. You see at the name pronunciation towards the bottom, it's a blue link that you can click. You may have to give access to your microphone to do your name pronunciation. Thank you for whoever was quicker on finding that than I was. All right, so the next thing we recruiters look at is your overview, the about section. So I really recommend that you make this your own. It's a way to really see and bring to the forefront a little glimpse of your personality, who you are, and your interests. Me personally, I start my about section with a little anecdote story about myself when I was younger and how I grew to become a recruiter. So get creative It could be as professional as you want it to be. It could be, socially professional if you want to, but keep in mind that this is how employers are going to find you.
One of two things, she's gonna either pop back in or pop out.
Can you guys hear me?
Yes, we can hear you now.
All right, I'm just gonna connect to my hotspot. They must be doing some work in my area. Let me, can you all still see my screen?
Yes.
Awesome. Okay. So go into things that you're interested in, the direction that you want to go as far as next steps in your career, some of the skills that you've picked up in the past. But it is recommended that you do about 40 to about 150, 200 words. So think of it as your elevator pitch. And highlighting some of your experience. I would recommend also staying away from words like expert in. I mean, unless you've won a trophy for it, you're not an expert in it. I don't think there's any, that's it's a relative term. So stay away from like, experts and the word strong, strong in, those types of things. I would stay away from building those words into your about section. But other than that, have fun with it. And again, make it 40, at least 40 words, upwards of 200 is comfortable. Any questions about the about section? All right, so for folks that may not have a lot of professional experience, these are some of the ways to still add content to your LinkedIn profile. Volunteer experience, employers, especially those that are early in career, employers look at volunteer experience just as strongly as professional experience. So encourage you to add that to your profile. You can add skills to your profile. There are different keywords that you can add as skills. You can add up to 50 skills to your profile. On mine, you would see recruiting, you would see stakeholder management, you would see project management. Those are all the skills that align to my role. So even though you may be earlier in your career, but if you're taking specific coursework where you're really passionate about and you've done maybe some capstone projects and programs, or maybe you've done some volunteering over the summer or throughout the school year, then you would want to add skills that align to that, to those professional experiences. The cool thing about skills is that people can endorse you on those skills, meaning that if I put that I am one of my skills is recruiting, then someone can confirm that I have that skill. So so the more skills you have and the more endorsements you have towards that skill, the better visibility and the higher ranking that you get on when recruiting or hiring managers search for your profile. You also can request a recommendation. This is a really big deal for people who are earlier in career to get recommendations from employers, leaders within volunteer organizations. If you're an athlete in athletics, you can have your coach make a recommendation. And then, of course, formal work experience recommendations from managers. My advice to recommendation is make it very easy for someone to give you a recommendation, meaning like almost craft it for them and see if they can post it on your behalf, if they agree with what you've written out, and keep it short and sweet. something that aligns to, you know, why you would be qualified in that certain area, or some of the value that you've added to any such organization. So especially when you are starting out in your career, recommendations will go a long way. So highly encourage you to get some. You can ask for a recommendation, or to ask someone to give a recommendation directly through the platform. So they can kind of be nudged and they won't have to do it just randomly. So you can always connect with folks like your professors or your employer managers on LinkedIn, and then you can ask them to give you a recommendation through the tool. Okay. Great. And just some reminders, put your location on there. There are a couple ways that you can add your location. You can get really specific to your area. You can click it up a little bit. Like for me, I'm south of Dayton, in Monroe, Ohio, but I like to say that I'm from the Cincinnati metropolitan area. So there's options to click it up a little bit, or you can do just United States. But it does help to understand for employers where you live from like a relocation standpoint. And for those that are open to relocating, you can add that to your about section, just to let employers know that you're open to moving outside of your current area. Your education, of course, very important, especially to supplement those who may not have professional experience or internships to highlight. So you can add your education. Once upon a time, and I don't know if this is a feature now, you could put your GPA as a part of your education. If that is still a feature, recommend that you do not put your GPA if it falls below a 3.0. If it falls above a 3.0, then that is when it becomes valuable, especially if you are actively involved in a lot of other things. So if you can show that you've kept your grades up, but you also are involved in, 6 other volunteer opportunities and other groups on campus, then that is when we make the connection of someone who can manage their time, as in recruiting or managers. So that's when it becomes important. But anything lower, I would keep it off. When it comes to publications, if you like to blog or if you have crafted content, you would want to put that on LinkedIn, either a link to a creative portfolio, or if you can actually make publications directly in LinkedIn, more of a blog, in a blog format. So you just would do that from your profile and hit create, and then you can add your own publication. So if you're really interested in a particular topic, and you have a creative writing background, you can add that there. And then accomplishments. If you've had any awards, recognitions, that's where you would want to add it. So like employee of the month, volunteer of the week. If you have gotten any type of accolades with your college or with your school within Central State, then that's where you would want to highlight it there. Okay. Any questions about these topics?
I have a question.
Yeah.
If we can't put 2 locations on there, like say we just go to school in Ohio but live out of state, which one would you recommend we put? Like which location?
How much longer would you be in Ohio?
For another year.
Okay. So it depends. It's really personal preference. If you would, and it depends on where you want to go. So how I would answer that is, if you want to do an internship or your next like employment opportunity or work experience opportunity in or around Ohio, put Ohio. And then maybe in the about section, you can say that you're open to opportunities, summer internships or whatever the case may be, anywhere in the US or globally. So you can put that in text, but then you can keep your location in Ohio. But if you are going to, like, some of you may be in the summertime, maybe you're going back home, which is not in Ohio, then maybe you would want to put where you're located, where you're actually going to be living in the summer or after post graduation, so that people know where to find you. So think of it as like, where do I want employers to find me? That's because you can make your LinkedIn profile whatever you want. I mean, I can say I live in California, because if that's where I want to live, then if that's where I want to work, then I would put California. I actually have family there, so like I could have an address there, so it's really, because recruiting and hiring managers, when we look for candidates, we may filter based on location. So if you think that after you graduate, you're going to relocate to Chicago, that was my dream, was I was going to move from Toledo to Chicago. I actually said that I was in Chicago because I had family there that I could stay with. And that way, when I was applying in that market, they see that I'm in Chicago. Now, I would be very careful with that, because don't expect that someone, don't put yourself as Chicago and then expect an employer to relocate you to Chicago because you told them you live in Chicago. So just be really intentional about where you put your location, and make sure that it's somewhere where you would actually work or be able to get there to work, if an employer were to hire you in that location. And if you are really flexible, but you live in Ohio and you really don't have the means to say you don't have friends or family in other markets, then say you're in Ohio, and then when you interview, you would let them know that you're open to relocation. And there are some companies that have reload budget to get you to where they need you to work out of. And that's where it would be important that in your about section, you can say that you're open to relocation for unique professional opportunities.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Any other questions? All right. So LinkedIn social media, and so it requires connections to make it social. So this is the part where we'll transition to more about how to build your network on LinkedIn. So before I dive into that, is there any questions about building your profile and adding to your profile before we move on to connection? Anything's fair game. Anybody bold enough to maybe read their about section if it's polished and you have it done? Or even if it's not, we can use it as a way to provide feedback. All right, I see one hand up. Go ahead.
My name is Pernisha Smith.
Go ahead, Javon's looking for you. You can go ahead first.
Okay. My name is Pernisha Smith, and I am an international junior from the Bahamas, double majoring in psychology and criminal justice at Central State University. I will be attending law school after receiving my undergraduate degree to pursue my passions of becoming an attorney. My top skills are public speaking, leadership, problem solving, communication, strategic and critical thinking. I am also interested in obtaining certifications in cybersecurity and project management.
Beautiful. Love it. Love it. You took more of a professional, a more professional narrative there. So as you go through maybe a second iteration, I love all the text. Maybe add a little bit about you as who you are as a person, because this is the point in time where we are blending professional and social, right? Very, very much so in the workplace. So if you have hobbies, if you have, if you aspire to open a nonprofit, like, you can add all of that to your LinkedIn, because this isn't a resume. This is a professional social platform. So use it as a way to highlight maybe some of the more casual and fun things that still are professional, but aligned to, who you are, and what makes you you. I love it though. It's really, really great. I love hearing about what you're looking to do.
It's cool if I read mine for feedback.
Yeah, go ahead.
As a first-generation student from the small town of Anderson, Indiana, I've witnessed people with similar backgrounds fall short of equal opportunities. With criminal justice as my minor and psychology as my main study, I wish to be a voice for those who struggle to use their own by using interpersonal skills while also advocating to eliminate LGBTQ stigma. I have a strong background in media presence and strategizing, whether behind the laptop editing footage, in front of the camera, or behind the camera capturing. Also have a strength in media management / branding, which helps me ground myself in days I choose to overwork by connecting through media engagement. I grew a love for the media after realizing I enjoy creating graphic designs and obtaining raw camera footage that captures the essence in a moment. Eventually, I dived into journalism by conducting interviews with the Vibe, CSU, Central State University organization, and by obtaining feedback on techniques that advances campus life on behalf of the Student Affairs Office.
Great. So take it or leave it. This is just the things that maybe think about as you look at your overview. I love the opener, and I love all of the things that you highlight. You mentioned you're a creative. Did I hear that right? That you have did I hear photography or videography?
Yeah,
Okay. If you have an online portfolio or a link to, then you would want to pop that in. Like once you reference your creative, you can pop in a URL to your online portfolio if you have one. If you don't have one, highly encourage you to do so. They're really, really fun, and it's a great way to not bog down LinkedIn, but you can, but we can still, hiring managers and recruiters can still look at it. And it could just be as long as it's professional. People have like different Instagram pages or TikTok pages and things like that. You can link it to that too. Just make sure it's separate from maybe your personal one. And it's specifically your creative content. Another recommendation is that when you went into your into some of the responsibilities for student affairs, it was towards the end. I think it was for student affairs. Is that right?
Yeah, that's right.
Great. I love how you touched on it, but it was a little lengthy, and that's what you'll have the experience section for. So don't be shy about splitting that out. Like you can reference it, but then when it goes into a little bit more details as far as your role, responsibilities, and some of the impacts that you've made, you can build that into the experience section of your LinkedIn. Okay. And then that way it shortens up the about section, and then people will want to read more because it was a great about section, and then they can see the experience bullet points. And you all do want to build in your experience, even if it's light. So for me, for example, when I was in school, I worked at Starbucks on campus, so I put that as my experience section. I also volunteered for 2 organizations on campus, and I was in leadership for one of them, and I was an attendee for and a planner, a coordinator for another one, and that was built in as my experience section. So although I was only getting paid the Starbucks very small salary at the time, I built in some of my organizational involvement as my experience section. Okay. Anybody else want to read theirs? We probably have time for one more. Perfect.
Mine says, a highly adaptable and versatile student and employee. I have experience in utilizing computer software for presentations, projects, and displays. My studies and GPA can exemplify my willingness to stay consistent in the workplace. Engineering has allowed me to cultivate and communicate through academic obstacles. Furthermore, my engineering studies and experience as an assistant manager and participation as a Colgate student athlete have allowed me to work with various teams in different settings. Each professional academic experience has provided me with transferable skills. I desire to continue growing all aspects of my academic and professional experience.
Perfect. That sounds great. It's a good length. You touched on some of the successes that you've had in interest areas. Did you mention what you're looking to, what your interests are as far as next step? I didn't catch it, but I didn't know if it was built in and I missed it.
No, ma'am. I
Okay.
kept it kind of broad.
I'm sorry, what was that last part?
I kept it kind of broad.
Okay, that's okay. If you are at so think LinkedIn it's adaptable. It's where you are at in your professional experience. So for you, if you are at a point where your interest is very much so, hey, I want to be employed and this is the areas that I'm interested in as far as the type of roles or the type of responsibilities that would align with my passions, you can put that in there. So, but for me, for example, like I'm not looking for my next thing. So my LinkedIn is my LinkedIn about me section is just more about like why I like recruiting and a little bit more about me. But if you're at a point and you actually are seeking specific employment opportunities, you can build that in a quick 1 sentence or 2 sentence. And this is more just general opinion for the masses, not particular to you specifically, but I just want to make sure that you all understand LinkedIn can ebb and flow. You can be tailored based on where you're at in your journey for employment and also just connection in general. Okay. Very good. Well, I heard some really great examples of the About Me section. I wish we had some time to go through the experience sections, but the About Me is really where we as managers and recruiters will look and read through as a first glimpse of who you are and your interest levels, and then we'll go continue on to the experience section. Great. All right, connections. So this is an opportunity for you to meet industry experts, peers, those that are in similar walks of life as you, those that you want to, maybe you have a curiosity around a certain discipline or company. This is the moment where you would want to reach out to folks, but it still has to be thoughtful and a little bit of strategy behind it. Now, at this point, I would say it's a lot more about volume at this point. So don't be shy to connect to folks based on, just a commonality that you have, maybe location, certain degrees, involvement in specific activities. And there are so many different ways that you can search that on LinkedIn. We can go through a demo towards the end, but connect as much as you can. Where I see people kind of fall short is that they connect without a reason. So it doesn't have to be lengthy, but when you connect to someone that you don't know at all, like that you've never met them, you need to provide a note, some type of context as to why you're connecting. It could be as simple as, hey, I saw, in my case, like I'll use me as an example. Hey, I saw that you have been at Google for 4 years. As another tech recruiter, I would love to expand my network. Simple. It could be, again, location, organizations, interests, skills, and it could be those that you would consider peers within the same kind of professional walk of life, and those that you want to meet with who could be, hiring for the future or have be an industry expert to provide guidance and mentorship. But it is best practice, and we see more acceptance rates if you provide a note as to why you're connecting. As a recruiter, one of my biggest pet peeves, this is personal opinion, but one of my biggest pet peeves is when someone says, hey, I'm interested in Microsoft and I wanted to know if there was opportunities that would be a good fit for me. I said this earlier and I'll say it again. Make it very easy for the reader as to why you're reaching out. Because if someone would have just added a little bit more saying, hey, I'm interested in careers at Microsoft within OpenAI and generative AI services, or within your legal team because I am about to graduate from law school, something, or a specific job that you saw on the site, on our career site, something to tie it back, I will be more inclined to accept your invitation request than not. Because I'll take Microsoft for example, Microsoft has over 300 US jobs alone at any given time. So I don't know what you would be a good fit for, and I don't have the time to do that work for you. You have to own that. And as much as you can help the reader or the manager, whoever you're reaching out to provide context as to why you're reaching out, it will trust me, the investment of that short 10 more seconds of adding the why would be, you'll get it back tenfold. Okay. You can do up to 30,000 connection requests a week. I'm not saying do 30,000. I'm saying that you can do up to 30,000 per week before you hit your max. So if there are some intentional connections that you want to make, then there's no shortage. You can do that, and then it restarts every week. Okay. Any questions about connections and some of the, like the what do we call it? The rules of engagement, I guess. Unspoken rules of engagement.
Are you ding for some of the people that reach out to connect to you that you don't connect to? I mean, just like, but some of them are random, and so I don't connect with them.
Correct. Yeah. It depends on where you're at in your journey. I would say that when I was fresh out of school or about to be out of school on LinkedIn, made my LinkedIn page. I would accept anybody and everybody that would ask me send me an invite. At this point in where I'm at professionally, I want to be more meaningful and thoughtful as far as who I'm connecting with, because I want to add value to them and I want them to add value to me as far as like industry knowledge. So there is no right or wrong. It's just personal preference and kind of where you're at. Right now at this point, it could be more about volume just to expand your network. But Kimberly, to your point, maybe there's a point in time where, just accepting anybody and everybody just doesn't make sense. I'll tell you, when I was in sales, I was in sales before I was a recruiter. I was sending a lot of requests to people, who could be potential clients of mine. And then I was also receiving a lot of invitations to connect, and I would accept all of them. But at this point, right now, I'm a little bit more selective on who I add.
More question. Oh, go ahead, Raven.
I think I understand, but I just want to make sure for clarity. Can you please specify the exact difference between just connecting with someone and following someone?
Oh, yeah. Great question. Great question. So LinkedIn, you can follow someone or you can connect with them. So connection is that you will be able to view their you'll be able to message them directly. You have more exposure to their content, especially if they have specific settings as far as privacy settings on their page. Whereas a follow is a little bit more about, it's like kind of like on Instagram, where if you can follow someone, but they don't have to follow you back type of deal. So you get access to some of their feed, like some of the things that they're posting about, but you can't message them directly unless you have the LinkedIn premium version. It kind of bypassed that screen. And then some of their content would be blocked. So there is a slight difference. And also they will not see your content posted if you follow them, but if you're connected, it shows up on their feed.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Excuse me. Could you talk a little bit about the being formal when you're introducing yourself and reaching out? I do see a lot of hey, and just kind of very informal communications. Could you talk about whether they should lean more towards a professional tone?
Yeah, good question. So here are some examples of ways that you can reach out. When you have a connection request, you can add a note, and that's what I was highlighting earlier, and reference the connection, why they can connect with you. So here's some examples on the screen. When it comes to formal versus informal conversation, be respectful always, but there is no right or wrong, and it's really just kind of like a read the room situation. And also depends on who you're reaching out to. Statistically speaking, people that are in more corporate settings and that are in higher level roles, so senior, principal, director, CVP, you would want to lean more of a formal tone. But if it's someone who is more of a peer or someone you would want to view more of a as to gather more information, then you can be a little more informal. It also depends on why you're connecting. If it's someone who went to the same college as you, like me, I went to the University of Toledo. If it was someone that went to UT as well, I would say, you know, hello, fellow Rocket. My name's Emily Summers. I would love to connect with you because, and then fill in the blank. It's a little bit more informal, but this is a professional social media. So it always, when you look at kind of the scale of very informal slang, you know, that kind of thing versus extremely professional and stuffy, you know, if you go in the middle, it's always going to lean more towards the professional, but it doesn't have to be like, hello, sir, or hello, ma'am, or whatever the case may be. It doesn't have to be that professional because it is a social platform. Any other questions? Once the last bullet point is about the follow-up, you know, once you have a connection, you get you'll get alerted that that person accepted your connection request. If it's someone that you want to engage with, whether it be now or at a future date, follow up with them. LinkedIn is meant to be interactive and social. So, you know, follow up with folks based on your interests and why it would be valuable for you to connect. Don't be just like a passive LinkedIn person. Hiring managers and recruiters read right through it. If you're not active on there, meaning you don't post anything, you don't have a robust profile, like where all of the sections are filled out, it's noticeable. Okay. Right. Any questions here? Cool. All right. So another way to get connected with folks is you can pull up your QR code when you're at different job fairs or, you know, professional events, volunteer opportunities. This is on your phone, your mobile phone, and you click the search bar in your mobile phone. And when you do click the search bar, it will give this QR code icon. When you click on that, then you can have your QR code populate. You can save it to your phone, or you can share it out via, you know, email or messenger. But when you're out and about at job fairs and especially professional networking opportunities, you can have your QR code. It's in the replace of a business card now, and it gets people connected. But again, this is where it becomes important, like that pre-work becomes important, because if you have your QR code, and they connect with you and they see that the profile is not complete or you haven't really done much with it, then when it comes to, you know, evaluating you against your peers, someone who is very active and very, you know, assertive on LinkedIn, all things being equal, we're going to go with someone who is a little bit more involved in highlighting some of the things that they, professional skills or experiences that they have. Okay. So don't give your QR code if you don't have your, you know, your LinkedIn profile like ready to go. Any questions on how to get to that? And again, the QR code, you can get it from using the mobile app. You cannot do the same steps and get it from your web version yet. All right. So I mentioned to be active on the site. So share, you can, the easiest way to be active is share other people's stuff. So on your feed, you'll get the option, unless they have privacy settings. Otherwise, you can share people's content. You can also follow different companies. You can join different networking groups, and then you can share their content. So you don't have to be the creator of content. That's not what we're saying. We're saying be involved. I personally, I don't create anything of my own. I reshare almost everything that, almost every post that I have is a reshare, and then I add maybe 2 lines worth of like comments. So most recently, I shared a post about our CEO has been CEO for 10 years, and how like the change of it was a reshare of a video that that a news company put out. So again, resharing, but being active and providing some comments. You can also comment on other people's postings, and as mentioned, you can follow people. So that way, if you follow them, that's different than a connection, but you can follow industry experts, and then all of their information that they publish on LinkedIn will show up in your feed, and then you can interact and comment on that. You can also, just like with every other social media platform, you can you can do some type of an impression on the post. You can clap, you can praise, you can I think there's a couple other icons that you can choose from, but those are great ways to also interact with the platform. Interacting is not just for the sake of doing it. It does help with your algorithm as well. And a lot of companies, use LinkedIn as the way to find talent. So it helps with your searchability. The more active that you are, the more skills you list on your resume, on your LinkedIn profile, the more experiences that you list. Those are all ways that we recruiters will be able to find you. Okay. I mentioned publishing. You can publish your own content. You can create articles directly in LinkedIn. It's more of like a blog type format. Once it's up, it's up. So just like any other social media platform, be careful on what you put up there, and do you want it up there for pretty much forever? You can delete it, but there's always record of it. So just be careful on what type of publications you're putting up, but that's an option there. Okay. All right, so this was actually the most recent post that I did. Again, it's a reshare. It's CNBC put it out there, and I just reshared it and adding a few comments. If you can see, it's kind of small, but I added Microsoft. So if anybody were to search posts that have Microsoft tagged to it, you can do tags, you can do hashtags, things like that. And as you can see here, I had a couple of reactions, and then I also had some impressions. Impressions means that it was visible to someone else on the LinkedIn platform. Okay. You can post about anything, but for me, I post things that are about Microsoft, like some of the, I'm a recruiter. I want people to want to come to Microsoft. So I post things that align to like my function and my role and my interest. So I'll post things about recruiting. I'll post things about technology. I'll post things about what our competitors are doing. Because I think, in the spirit of transparency, it's interesting for people to know what our competitors are doing. If it's relevant to me as a recruiter, I'll post about hiring opportunities. So, for you would want to either interact with those postings, but then also be thinking about some of the topics and interests that you would want to share and post content about. Okay. To make it easy to be very active on LinkedIn, you can schedule your posts. There is a best practice out there where people will schedule what they want to land on LinkedIn on the weekend, and then just select the day in which it will publish for you. So it really helps like manage your time where daily you don't have to go in and do it. And so when you go to create a post, there's a little icon down at the bottom where you can schedule your posts. I believe today you can schedule up to 30 days in advance. I don't believe you can schedule beyond that, but it really will help if you're a planner like myself and you don't feel like managing it every day. It's really helpful to just carve out, half hour, an hour of your day and be ready to launch certain postings. Okay.
Is there you were talking about earlier about if someone is active or not, how often should they post to make them seem more active than the next person?
Yeah, so I think last week we had a LinkedIn brief They said on average, people do about 2 postings a week, like to be considered active, 2 posts a week. And then interactions like comments or reactions is about 3 to 5. That's considered like active and quote unquote normal. So that would be like a good target, comfortable to work with. But it again, it kind of depends, right? So if you have a knack for creative content in the social media world, or you are going in the direction of social media analyst or something like that, or maybe a creative, then like do more. If you are more in like the financial world and you're more interested in like the trends of finance, then that would be probably around that, like 2 to 3 would be comfortable per week. And that's not just you, like when I say being active, it's not just like you creating your own content. Like, don't think of it that way. I'm talking about, it also includes resharing, reactions to a post, things like that. So I don't want you to think that you always have to create your own post. That's not what I'm saying. Because, I will flip to my LinkedIn profile. When you are on your LinkedIn, there's an activity section right here. So it will show all of the things that I've done. So these are the posts that I've done. These are the comments that I've made. These are the images that I've republished. So these are the, this is where we can see how active you are very quickly. It's like right there as soon as you scroll down beyond the about section. Okay. Well, that concludes the how-to of LinkedIn. What questions do you all have?
What advice would you have for freshmen, those who are just starting out?
Yeah. So use this time to build your profile, especially the experience section, as you think about how you're getting involved in either your business schools, so whatever college you're involved with, or some of the organizations that you're involved with, then start building out the experience section. That way, when you're ready to launch your job search or internship opportunity, you don't have to start it then. Like, you already have a following, you already have content. Now it's just about expanding your network. But it also depends on your goals too. Like, if you're looking to get an internship or a new job opportunity now, then you can start making those connections and having those conversations. And people, for the most part, like, people are willing to help. So if it makes sense where you connect with someone and you want to, and they're open to, a coffee chat. A lot of folks meet for, do coffee chats and virtual or otherwise on LinkedIn to get more familiar with that particular industry or profession. So those are all options as well.
Any more questions?
Yes, I have a question in reference to experience. Sorry.
Yeah.
How far back should you go with your experience, or should it just be in reference to relevancy?
Yeah. So a lot of this is personal preference, right? But LinkedIn, you can add as much experience as you want, as far back as you want. I would say is if you have a few, maybe you have like 2 or 3 things that you've done, organizations or employment, then you may want to be a little bit longer winded as far as like the amount of bullet points that you put in there. But as you grow your career, things that maybe were 10 plus years ago, you'll just want to list it and maybe a couple bullet points. So that way, and really give the attention to the most recent experience. So it all just kind of depends on where you're at in your journey. And LinkedIn should be updated like every 3 years. Well, at this point in your journey, maybe more frequently, but like for someone like me, every 2 to 3 years, I need to be like really cleaning it up. But along that journey, I need to be adding to like different certifications that I've acquired or accolades that I've been given. I do those in real time. But as far as the language and how I want to brand myself in the market, I do a refresh every 2 years or so. For you, maybe like as soon as you get more professional experience, you would want to take a look at that every couple months. I do want to touch on, oh, I'm sorry, I saw a hand raised, but I just want to touch on this really quick. LinkedIn and a resume, they need to highlight your professional experience, but they're not the same. LinkedIn, have a little bit more fun with it, whereas your resume, that's where you would want to stick with kind of like the 1 to 2 page. Well, it's starting to, I don't know what they're teaching right now, but from a corporation perspective, a 2 to 3 page resume, depending on how much experience you have, is okay now. It used to be 1 page and you had to cram it all in, but depending on how much professional experience you have, 2 to 3 pages, no more than 3 pages are the trends now. But LinkedIn can be as long as you want. So have fun with it.
There was a question.
I had a question for you, like, which one, when we're starting our LinkedIn profile, should we be choosing more of a creative or more of a professional? Like, what is the creative aspect for LinkedIn more catered to, like just the following and stuff like that? Who do you see?
Yeah, so it depends on your professional goals, right? So for someone who I'm in HR, so I'm a people person, like my role or the people that the profession that I'm looking to continue growing in is more people centric. So I'm going to lead with more personality and more people centric type language and, creative forum on like in my LinkedIn. If you are more technical, and when I say technical, I mean on the coding side versus like the creative UX side, then you may want to, technical folks tend to do a lot more short form and straight to the point. So your experience could really follow that. So it depends. It really depends on the direction you're looking to go. But when you think about crafting your LinkedIn, whether it's the about section or the experience section, think of like, who do you want to, where do you want to go? Like who do you want to see this? What employers or what industries? And each industry, I think you can kind of pick up just even in your coursework. Each industry has its own kind of culture, right? So there's finance, legal, public service, like they all have their own different personas. Personas is the best word. And so that's like kind of the persona you would want to have on your LinkedIn, is the direction that you would want to go. Also, one thing that I just thought of in the experience section, build your experience section that has like a couple bullet points as far as like what you did and the experience, the actual like day-to-day experience. You also want to build in some of your impact. So your qualitative and quantitative impact to the organization. And then you also have the ability to list out skills. And what I mean by that is, so see, I have, so I have some of the experience, and then I have these skills here down at the bottom. These skills also tie into the skills that are way down here. They also will be added here as well. So each section, each experience section, you can add your bullet points, and then you can have skills. And actually, I even need to do a better job on building in some of that quantitative metrics. So what I mean by that is, maybe for me as a recruiter, like my time to fill ratio, or maybe how some of the accolades that I've received. That's what I mean by some of that qualitative and quantitative impact. But I have a lot of like what I do day to day, because the reader still needs to get a sense of what you do. But then you can, so again, what you do, some of the responsibilities, and then your quantitative or qualitative successes, as well as some of the listings of the experience, or sorry, the skills, especially if you're in like an engineering function, like coding languages and exposure to specific platforms is really important for engineers and researchers.
Any other question? Hey, Emily, can you do me one favor? Can you stop sharing so I can take your picture on the screen?
Yeah.
Your picture will get a little, oh yeah, there we go, there we go. Hey. All right, cool. Thank you. Well, if we could all give a round of applause to our.
It was really, really great talking to you. Thank you so much for sharing some of the content you've already done on LinkedIn. Little exercise for you, maybe some taking some of the advice that's shared today. If you do want to connect with me, then Emily Summers, EMELIE is my LinkedIn. Please add a note, because I do not accept everyone. So if you add a note referencing this particular conversation, I'm happy to accept your connection. And I know that we didn't get to, how to search for jobs. Very, very easy. There's just a jobs tab on your LinkedIn. And I highly encourage you to take a look at Microsoft's internship opportunities. We will be hiring a summer internship class. Those postings are up now. So start getting familiar with some of our internship opportunities or job opportunities as well.
Thank you. I'm so glad that you mentioned that, because one of the things that I've noticed, I just put in, like, for example, Columbus, Ohio internships, and boom, 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 all these internships come up. So make sure that when you put the filter in there, you get specific, Dayton, Ohio, Cleveland, Ohio, internships, Pacific type jobs. They are on there. They are on there. So get your LinkedIn page together and start getting busy. But again, one more time, can we give our presenter a hand clap?
Thank you. Thank you. It was a pleasure. You all have a great week. Thanks so much for the time today.
Real quick before we leave, you guys, we have the bingo. Make sure that if you did not pick up one of the bingo forms, secondly, we have more. This is just day